There is a story that is causing a lot of controversy on the internet. It is alleged that a man named Stanley Allen Meyer, who is said to have built a car that runs on water, was subsequently murdered because his innovation could harm the interests of oil corporations and several nations that are dependent on oil. On August 24, 1940, Stanley Meyer was born in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States of America. It was in 1975 when he first started looking into water to fuel technology. At the time, the United States had just gone through an oil crisis as a result of the embargo imposed by OPEC. As a result of this embargo, the price of oil virtually tripled, which had a significant influence on the economy of the entire world, particularly in the United States. When considered in this light, the concept of converting water into fuel has become particularly appealing. In 1992, Meyer was awarded a patent for a device that he termed the water fuel cell. He claimed that this device had the potential to convert water into energy that could be used to power a vehicle. During an appearance on a local television station in Ohio, he asserted that his automobile required only 83 liters of water to carry it from Los Angeles to New York, which is a distance of approximately 4,500 kilometers. Because of the impact of the media, he was able to sell this technology to 2 investors for a total of $25,000 US. On the other hand, these 2 investors filed a lawsuit against Meyer in 1996, accusing him of fraud. Professor Michael Lawton, an expert in electrical engineering from Queen Mary University in the United Kingdom, and his colleagues at the Royal Academy of Engineering put his innovation through its paces in research and development. The findings demonstrated that Meyer's method was nothing more than a straightforward water electrolysis apparatus, and that it did not constitute a significant scientific advancement. After determining that he had committed fraud, the court ordered him to refund the money that he had gotten under the circumstances. In 1994, he had to refund more than $300,000 to another investor named William E. Brooks. Brooks had initially intended to use Meyer's invention in the aviation industry, but he ultimately decided against doing so after discovering that the piece of equipment was ineffective. On the 20th of March in 1998, Stanley Meyer had lunch with his brother and 2 investors at a restaurant. This was the moment when suspicions reached their highest point. Meyer instantly grabbed his neck, raced out of the restaurant, and threw up violently, as stated by his brother. This occurred after Meyer had consumed a sip of cranberry juice. Just before he passed away, he yelled out, "They poisoned me!" Many people were fooled into thinking that he had been murdered after his untimely death. However, after conducting an investigation that lasted for 3 months, the police discovered no proof of poisoning. As a result of his history of high blood pressure, the forensic investigation came to the conclusion that he passed away as a result of a cerebral aneurysm. On the other hand, numerous conspiracy theories continue to circulate, asserting that oil and gas firms or the government have intervened in order to prevent the technology from posing a danger to their interests. The question that needs to be answered is whether or not Stanley Meyer's car can actually run on water. The answer, as stated by the specialists, is not yes. He utilized a technology that is founded on the idea of water electrolysis, which entails the utilization of electricity to separate water into hydrogen and oxygen, followed by the combustion of hydrogen in order to generate energy. On the other hand, the amount of energy that is necessary to split water is always more than the amount of energy that can be gained by burning hydrogen. In accordance with the first law of thermodynamics, which states that energy is neither generated nor destroyed, this is impossible. At one point in time, Meyer asserted that his system had a very low electricity consumption and even generated surplus energy that could be used to drive and run the automobile. On the other hand, by providing such an explanation, he unintentionally transformed his creation into a perpetual motion machine, which is an entirely illogical concept about the laws of physics. In 2009, Meyer's patent expired, and it was then made available to the public. His technology would have been accepted by automobile manufacturers a long time ago if it were practical enough to be implemented. However, the reality is that no company anywhere in the world has ever utilized that technology because it does not have any value in terms of practical application. As a result, The theory that Stanley Meyer was murdered in order to stifle the invention that would shake the globe is truly devoid of any tangible evidence. The entire thing is nothing more than a collection of conspiracy theories that revolve around a contentious creation, but it does not have any basis in science. Personally, I find the story of Stanley Meyer is undoubtedly compelling, not because it proves the existence of revolutionary technology, but because it reflects the complex relationship between science, public perception, and power. From a scientific perspective, the notion that a car can run on water contradicts fundamental laws of physics, particularly the first law of thermodynamics. The process of splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen through electrolysis always consumes more energy than it yields, making the concept of a self-sustaining water-fueled engine scientifically unfeasible. No reputable scientific institution has ever validated Meyer's claims, and no car manufacturer has adopted his technology, despite the patent being in the public domain for years. This clearly demonstrates that the invention itself lacked practical value, not that it was suppressed. Yet, what keeps the story alive is not the science, but the distrust many people have toward oil corporations and government entities. In a world where powerful institutions have, at times, prioritized profit over public good, the idea that someone could be silenced for creating a disruptive technology resonates emotionally, even if it lacks a factual basis. This highlights a deeper issue. When the public feels excluded from scientific and political discourse, conspiracy theories become a way to explain perceived injustices. Stanley Meyer's story thus becomes a symbol of the public's frustration with fossil fuel dependency and the slow pace of environmental innovation, rather than a case of proven technological breakthrough. In my view, this case underlines the urgent need for greater investment in scientific literacy. People deserve to understand the principles that govern the technologies they rely on. When basic concepts like energy conservation or thermodynamics are not widely understood, it creates fertile ground for myths to flourish. Moreover, governments and corporations must do more to foster transparency and trust. If innovation is to be embraced by society, it must be accompanied by clear, honest communication and openness to scrutiny. At the same time, we should shift our focus from miracle solutions to realistic, evidence-based approaches to clean energy. While the idea of a water-powered car may be alluring, the real breakthroughs are likely to come from sustained investment in hydrogen fuel cells, solar power, and battery innovation. Ultimately, the fascination with Stanley Meyer's invention is less about the science and more about human hope. Hope for a cleaner, more just world. However, genuine progress depends not on wishful thinking, but on rigorous science, critical inquiry, and a shared commitment to truth. It is only by grounding ourselves in reality that we can build the future so many people yearn for